Welcome to the REALL Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by the Leadership Doctors, Dr. Sheka Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, best-selling authors, consultants, and speakers of Create and Educate LLC. Create and Educate LLC is an educational consultant and literary firm that provides professional development to schools and community. Their goal is to transform organizations with the REALL Resilience Framework used to increase their school report card grades 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year. REAL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. When the work is manageable, teachers and leaders don't stress out or burn out. The Leadership Doctors alignment systems are designed to help schools evolve and grow, all while instituting protocols and processes designed to promote collaboration and collegiality. Alignment systems are frequently referred to as a key element of success in the improvement process. In the sport of rowing, all rowers must put their oars in the water succinctly, creating a system for their boat to reach maximum speed. So schools that want to improve are bringing in the Leadership Doctors to teach them all about the alignment systems that must be in place for school improvement to be accomplished at high levels. The dynamic duo provides insights into educational topics through their international platform, which includes educators, parents, and community members as a way to support important entities that make communities thrive. This is their way to pay it forward and provide the support they needed through their platform. They get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website. Welcome to the REALL Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by the Leadership Doctors, Dr. Sheka Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. REAL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. The Leadership Doctors alignment systems are designed to help schools evolve and grow, all while instituting protocols and processes designed to promote collaboration and collegiality. They get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website.
Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to episode 136 of the REALL Academy, brought to you by Create and Educate with your very own Leadership Doctors, HERS, home of the Resilience Framework. I am Dr. Sheka Houston.
And I am Dr. Tammy Taylor. Good morning, Sheka, and good morning, REALL family. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Good morning, Tammy. And let's see who we have with us this morning so we can do our quick roll call. Good morning to Ms. Truesdale, our assistant principal out in Atlanta. Principal Rashard Davis out in Las Vegas. Good morning. Good morning, Melissa Jones Chunu. Good morning, Principal Sherrod Laws. Good morning, Jasmine Harris. Good morning, Principal Hurt. You were on fire this morning as usual. We're going to use that video on leadership teams. A lot of people need to hear that.
Yes.
Good morning, Edwin Garcia. And good morning, Miss September Devon Vance Daniels. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you tuning in on Saturdays. We know you could be anywhere. And each week we ask you to tell us in the comments how you have kept it real this week, remember that REAL stands for respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership. That is our resilience framework. Shout out to Mrs. Arcella Ostry, who kept it real last week by telling her girls and staff not to apologize for how the world sees them, and Mr. Edwin Garcia, who makes his office a safe and brave space for students to share and keep sharing. Also, keep sharing your real moments with us, because we do go back and read them, and we do like to shout you out. So we didn't choose real because it was just a catchy phrase as our acronym. That resilience framework is rooted in the improvement correlates developed by Dr. Ron Edmonds. He's an improvement specialist that refuted the 1966 Coleman report that African American students could not learn at the same rate as their white peers. So his research has found common characteristics among schools that were 90% poverty, 90% achieving, and then also 90% African American.
Yes, and our real framework connects that research and puts it into terminology that easily allows a leader to organize every task of the school around the principles that are called the correlates. A teacher can also organize every classroom task around those correlates, as well as students being able and taught to organize themselves around the correlates as well.
Absolutely. So ultimately, you have a school speaking the same language around proven principles to success, creating resilience and success. So we have posters for your halls and your classrooms. They are a great fit into your PBIS system for your school, and making the ultimate school climate transformation system for your school. So it really is some of the answers definitely to the test. So shout out to the schools that are already working with us. We're looking for more schools to use the resilience framework. We are looking to do some case studies with schools. We are doing some case studies with a few schools that we are working with in South Carolina. So reach out to us if this is something that you are interested in. So that brings us to our topic for today: when Blackness is a threat to classroom management. And first, we wanted to give you the context on where we even came up with this topic from. So, in honor of Women's History Month, we are definitely building our sisters, which you all know our work behind that, and we are proponents of that. A teacher by the name of Bria White. She's a second grade teacher from Horton Creek Elementary School in Cary, North Carolina. And just shout out to us Carolina girls. We are really doing our thing. I'm just joking. But no, really shout out to her. She wrote an article that was featured in Learning for Justice, entitled "I Teach for Black Girls Like Me." And in the article, she describes an incident that happened that she's still traumatized from today. She was in seventh grade, and her teacher threw a stapler at her. So she describes the teacher as seeing her blackness and her black girl magic as a threat to the classroom management. And when she described her blackness, she described it as outgoing and liking to have a good time. She felt like the teacher saw this as disrespectful, lacking manners, and that all of the teacher's rules were rooted in compliance. Come in the class quietly, no loud talking, no joking, sit down, do your work. Now, and Tammy and I, we talked about this. Honestly, when you listen to those rules, they sound very familiar, because those sound like, a lot of the rules of most classrooms in America. But the difference is, when you do know your children, you create spaces for certain things to happen. So Tammy and I are going to talk about that a little bit more into the conversation. But when blackness is seen as a threat to classroom management, this doesn't allow anyone to be able to keep it real. the respect doesn't exist for the students' individuality to show. They can't operate in excellence. You're not accountable for your bias. Literacy in math or English won't happen at high levels because there's not a connection in place. And then with the leadership of that classroom, there could not have been much reflection because this would not be the practice. So, first, we want to talk about what it looks like when Blackness is a threat to the classroom management. So, we've talked about compliance. Um, what are some other things, Tammy, that you can think of, or anything that you wanted to start off with?
Yeah, we just kind of wanted to leave some things with you all just to ponder, to kind of at least contemplate, because when you hear that, like the title will it is very catchy and it'll kind of catch you off guard. Like, how could blackness threaten classroom management? You're just really, it's something to take you aback. But what we discovered in that whole perception of this being a disruption to the learning environment, just based on who a child is, can create exactly what it created for the author of the article, when she talks about this experience where she was just being herself and doing what she did, and a
Hmm.
stapler comes across the classroom in her direction. That's pretty extreme, and it takes me to the thought of who disrupted the classroom environment more. Like,
The
what
stapler was more of a disruption.
what was she doing
Right.
that it was that the stapler wasn't what disrupted the environment? Like, my immediate thought was there was a deeper issue there. Like, we don't know the scenario that surrounds it, so we can't really talk about that, but it had to have been something more, and that's what we want to leave you to think about and to share with your teachers. Like, make sure that you do take the time to understand who you're teaching. Those relationships are absolutely key, because we have said this many, many times, and this is our friend Josh Tovar quotes James Comer's work. Kids can't learn from people who they don't have a relationship with. If you don't show that you value who your children are, you might really truly see them as a disruption in your classroom management plan. But to me, we encourage you to encourage your people, build your classroom management
Mm.
system around who you have in the class. Now, you I get it. And there are times when the classroom does need to be quiet. There are times when you need the children to be completely 100% focused in on what's going on. But that's a part of creating that culture, because
Right.
these are the classroom norms, and this is how these are the expectations for the room, and this is how it looks in our classroom, so that you never get to the point where you want to throw something at a child. And I mean, I'm just being 100% honest this morning. Like, I can't remember, and I have had some wham doozies going on in my classroom, but I can't ever remember wanting to throw something at a child. Like,
Me either.
that was a lot.
Yeah, and I also want to say that, in my classroom, I am that person who is I'm very procedural. I like
Mhm.
procedures, I like order, and I don't like chaos. And so coming into my classroom, it was very, you knew the rules, but
Mhm.
I explained that in the beginning. Now, once they got into the classroom, however, and we got past whatever the morning work was and, meetings, now we're creating spaces where students can collaborate. They're talking to me, I'm talking to them.
Mhm.
I know my students who like to laugh and joke. I'm laughing at them. They're laughing at me, certain things that I'm saying. So it should be spaces created, like you said, at the appropriate times. And when we're
Right.
looking at this from a parent's perspective, this is the thing from a parent's perspective that we have to explain to our children that, yeah, you're supposed to show up every day as your authentic self. I am a true proponent of that. However, there are certain times and spaces for the right things to happen. And that's everywhere. That's for school. That's when they go off and go to work. So, as parents, we have to make sure that our children know that. But as teachers, we also have to make sure that we're making sure students know both sides of that token, the
Yeah.
time
And
and the space and the place, and
you
creating them.
so correct, Sheka. And I think you said something before when you were talking about how just the procedural aspect of a classroom can look different from class to class, and it's going to, because we're different. So I think I'm glad you made that point, because although I am a procedures person, like the only rule I ever had, and this was in fourth grade and in first grade, when the rule that was on the board was respect is the rule and the rule is respect, because anything else that you need to happen in the classroom can fall under creating a respectful environment on both parts, mine with them and them with me. So
Hmm.
that was something I think that gave me a slight advantage, and I may have just been a little ahead of my time to give kids that kind of flexibility to talk through, like, what is this going to look like for us in this room?
Hmm.
But I can say this one thing I never had, and as I said before, I got some of the toughest cases for that reason. Oh yeah, Tammy can handle them. Yep, we're gonna give her three more, and so
Right.
kids would have to be moved, and they move them right on down there with the overabundance of children that I already had.
And I'm glad you said that, because it took me back. So my first year in teaching, my mentor teacher taught the same subject that I taught, and she was across the hall from me. She was a white female. She was older than me, and so what was happening was students who were not I don't know, something would happen in her class and they would move them to my class. So she would get upset when she saw the children come to my class, and all of them were African American. They would come to my class and they would not be doing any of the things that they were doing in her class. And so she would look through the window and say, "Well, why are they not they're behaving over here?" And so, I'm a first year teacher. She's supposed to be my mentor, and I'm thinking, okay, so I don't have time for this. I don't have time to explain to you why they're behaving over here and not over there. You're supposed to be the experienced teacher. But we did end up having a conversation, and I had to explain to her that culturally, students may not look at us the same way. When they look at me, they may see their aunt, their you know, mom. I don't know who they see, but their relation with me may be different than it is with you, and that just is what it is.
Yeah.
And because she I think she started to get offended by it. I did
Yeah.
let her know that, when the children do come over here, um whether they're what we want is for them to be able to be successful. So whether
Right.
they're in your room, whether they're over here, now we have found a space for them to be successful, and that's what we wanted. So let's just move on from this, because at this point we can't try to put them back to see,
Mhm.
if are they gonna now, are they no, it was just the relationship may have been different, and the way that
Right.
I relate to them may have been different.
Yeah, or it could have just been like you said before, when they looked at you, they could see themselves, or
Right.
they may not have seen who they are at that moment, because they may not have been able to make that connection based on where you are at that particular moment in time, but they could be seeing themselves as they can be. You never know. So like,
Right.
I'm not that person. If you're the better of the two to connect with and make the relationship, a successful one so that the child is successful, have at it. Do it. We
Right.
need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we're doing what's right for children. But I do believe that there is power in the fact that sometimes our children want to have those structures in place that we provide, even unaware. It's just, it's not
Mhm.
even, it's not all, it's unspoken. Some
Right.
of the expectations come across in just the way I look at you. You know
Mhm.
better than what you do, and go somewhere and sit down. I don't even have to open my mouth to say that. Like, sit down.
Right.
And my eyes told you to go sit down. And you know what? Guess what they do? Go sit down.
Right.
That doesn't always work if there is not that connection, and it could be perceived as a cultural connection, but it could also be perceived as a heart connection, because when you know that I care about you and what you have going on, and I place expectations and parameters around what you do and how I expect you to not just behave, because that's the other thing. This isn't about making kids, breaking them down to comply with what we want them to
Exactly.
do. And I've heard teachers say that before. Oh, I'll break him before the end of the year. What
And
do
I think
you
that's
mean?
terrible. Yeah,
You're not taming a horse. Like,
exactly.
you really, oh, you don't tame horses. What do you do? I don't know what you do. And whatever you tame, I guess dogs. But this is not an animal. You don't break kids. And
Right.
what you don't want to do is to create that dynamic in the space that you're trying to make the cultural epicenter of these children's lives for 180 days. You
Mhm.
want to create a space where they feel good about where they're going, and feel good about presenting authentically who they are, so that we're able to be the vehicle that gets them where they need to go.
And I brought this comment back up. Many educators perceive the feedback and honesty of our babies as rudeness. Silence about the inadequacy of teaching is preferred. And I find this to be true as well. We That's why you see so many write-ups with disrespect, because it's very easy to take something and label it to your perception of what disrespect is. And that's why it's very important in schools for the staff to have in the school to have a definition that is agreed upon by what are we saying is disrespect, because sometimes it is not that. It is that I don't like what he said, the feedback that you've provided me about my inadequacy. And we are not able to take constructive criticism from children. And so, you know, we teach children to say things in the proper context and in the right spaces, but we are not a proponent of silencing them. That
No,
should
you
not
can't do
happen.
that. And it's matter of factness. Like, I encourage children to tell the truth, and they will do it. You have to be prepared. If you create that kind of environment, you have to be prepared to hear what their thoughts are, because I promise they'll come with it.
And September mentioned how she has a colleague that's discouraging some of her young Black scholars to be involved with her program and even walk by her room. And unfortunately, that exists where people become upset with another teacher about a teacher's effectiveness with a student. And all we can encourage is that we all learn from one another. If you think that something's happening in a classroom that can't happen in yours, come take a seat. See what you can garner from the relationships that's being built in the room or what's happening in the room. Get your pad, come take a seat, take some notes. Try to learn from one another, because jealousy gets us nowhere. And I know I'm not
Yeah.
talking to you, Miss September, but I hope that your colleague does that. Comes in and just decides to try to learn some things if their experience with children is different than yours.
Yeah, and this is a comment too before we bring the girls on. I just
Okay.
want to speak to Miss Dot was saying how when a teacher told her that a child had been disrespectful, she would have them to define it. And I think that's important. One
Mhm.
other thing that I have learned that is very important for our children is to make sure they understand too the context in which you speak. Like,
Mhm.
I understand what you were saying, and I really was not being disrespectful. No, you were not being disrespectful. So this is what I'm gonna help you do, so that you aren't perceived as being disrespectful the next time. Make sure that your tone
Mhm.
doesn't make someone think that you're trying to be disrespectful,
Right.
and don't create a situation for a teacher that you don't want a teacher to create for you. You don't want to embarrass the teacher in front of everyone. Like, you really struggling
Right.
with what she's talking about, ask her to step outside the room and have a conversation. We need
Right.
to be, all of us need to be on the same page.
We do, exactly. So we are at the end of our time because we want to bring up our interns who have been helping us the past 6 weeks. Rebecca Ames, and I'm gonna wait for Tito to turn her camera on. There she is. We are so thankful for them, and if you all would just help us applaud
Yes,
them and give them a
celebrate
shout
these
out.
ladies. They are absolutely fabulous. Thank you, girls, so much.
Girls,
Thank you.
and they
Thank
are
you.
joining us all the way from the UK. So this has been phenomenal. So many projects have been able to be executed because of them. So thank you all so much. We wanted to publicly thank you.
Thank you.
Did you all want to say anything?
It's just been great to sit in and experience the work that you're doing, and I really feel like I'm learning a lot because of it.
Thank
Awesome.
you,
Thank
Rebecca.
you, Rebecca.
Yeah, the opportunity has been really great. I've learned so much, and I've learned so much about like education, but also just the skills that I've been learning over the course of this time. It's just like it's an experience like no other.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much,
Thank you,
Tito. We're
Tito.
gonna miss y'all, and remember, y'all are Create and Educate now, so y'all bounce back in here when you get ready.
That's right. And all of the new things that you all have seen, the daily real moments, has been because of them and our
Absolutely.
other
The
pages.
website,
Yes.
the Roku. I mean, they really have done
Everything they
it.
have. Thank you. So we hope that you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Please join us next on Principal Kafele's page. He has some phenomenal women leaders in honor of Women's History Month. Join us, Josh and Dean, on Sundays for Unlock the Middle. Back here on Saturdays for Principal Hurt starting at 10, and Create and Educate at 10:30. So you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank
Thank you,
you.
ladies. Thank y'all. Have a good Saturday.